Okay, so I'm actually glad that I'm speaking after Jordan because I'm talking about one of Venture Expedition's partners that he mentioned. It's International Justice Mission. They're a human rights organization, and their specific cause is they're dedicated to freeing people from slavery. A recent statistic from their website states that more children, women, and men are held in slavery right now than over the course of the entire transatlantic slave trade. That's a lot of people. When I say slavery, I know a lot of you are probably thinking of a history class that you took in high school, or maybe you took one in college, and you're thinking of like big ships coming over from Africa, people in chains, and that's slavery. I don't want to make light of that. But it looks a lot different today. And I started first learning about this cause at a college conference, and then I have a friend who actually works for International Justice Mission, so we started talking about it, and as I was deciding on a major, I started thinking, well, I might want to actually work for them someday. So I just want to talk to you today about what modern-day slavery looks like, because it's a cause that can sometimes be confusing. And then I just want to explain what International Justice Mission does and what I would like to do with them someday. So first, how are people enslaved today? What does IJM even have to do with anything? One of their partners is DoSomething.org, which is similar to Venture Expeditions. They help raise money for, they just help fundraise for the cause. And DoSomething.org defines slavery as forcing victims into prostitution, involuntary servitude, and deceptively leading victims into debt that they have no hope of ever overcoming. I know it's hard for us to imagine what slavery or what being enslaved is like, because even though that's a part of our history, it's not really a part of our lives from day to day, thank goodness. But just try to imagine what it would be like. We choose our majors, we choose our careers, we choose what we're doing after this class, we choose what we want to have at Starbucks, but for many, many people, that is not even close to their reality. So I just ask you to try to imagine what it would be like if all of your freedom was stripped away. So who's enslaved today? Well, children, men, women, especially widows. I know in our country we have a lot of freedom for women, for everyone, but in a lot of countries that's not the case. And in many countries, if a woman is not married or if her husband passes away, then she really can't build a livelihood for herself or her family anymore. And so oftentimes it's women that are forced into this servitude. And then a lack of like an appropriate justice system or honest law enforcement just adds to this cycle, and it keeps repeating over and over. Those are a few ways that people are enslaved. And now I want to look at how International Justice Mission is involved. They specifically focus on the victims of sexual exploitation, and they have 4 goals. The first thing is they want to rescue the victim. They want to take them out of the situation. That way they cannot be abused any longer. And then they want to hold the abuser accountable. In a January 2009 New Yorker article, Gary Hogan, who's the founder of International Justice Mission, said the biggest problem on earth is not too little democracy or too much poverty or too few antiretroviral AIDS medicines, but rather an absence of proper law enforcement. So part of what IJM does is try to go in and recreate legal and judicial systems or fight dishonest ones. That way their impact is lasting. They also focus on the aftercare of the victim. They don't just want to take someone out of a situation. They want to help them psychologically, how to overcome those memories of the past, and how to create a better future for themselves and for their future families. They are very interested in changing communities to stop the cycle of abuse. And in a PRN Newswire article that was just written on the Clinton Global Initiative, that initiative was held last week, IJM's founder is quoted saying, "Our goal is not just to bring protection to individual victims of abuse, but to see entire communities transformed so that the poor are never victimized in the first place." So whether it's changing laws or education systems, just educating communities on abuse, they want to stop the cycle from reoccurring. But not just anyone can fight tough issues like this. Some of these realities are very hard to handle. That's one of the things that my friend who works for them has explained to me over and over again, that it can be very difficult to face some of these realities. So some specific skills that I'm trying to develop, and it's not always easy, but some skills that workers need is they need to be highly motivated because a lot of the work can be discouraging. They have to be very outcome focused, no matter how hard it may be to get to that outcome. And they have to find a fine balance between being compassionate but able to detach from the people that they're working with and letting them move on with their lives. So it's not easy, but it is rewarding. I know that I've given you guys a lot of information on a topic that you maybe haven't heard of before. We talked about modern day slavery, what it looks like, what IJM is doing, and what an IJM worker would do. There's a lot of statistics and quotes, but I just want us to remember that behind everything there are real people. So next time that you're in a history class, remember you're talking about slavery. Just think about those enslaved today and what IJM is doing to change that. Are there any questions before we finish? Yes.
So you talked about slavery, the definition changing over time. So are they prepared to change that definition whenever it will change again, and are they ready to build on that?
I think that's a good question because it's not always going to look the same. And I think one of the things that International Justice Mission is doing to prepare for that, because they can't predict the future, they can kind of guess as to what it's going to look like. But they know that human trafficking is not an issue that's going away. So they're trying to grow their company to be able to handle the increasing statistics. And like I said, they're trying to go in and change communities, because that's a more long-term thing than just taking one person. Even though that changes that person's life, they would like to go in and change communities so that maybe they don't have to deal with that as much in the future. Even though they are prepared to, they don't necessarily want to keep their line of employment growing. But that's a great question.
Do you know any statistics for the United States as far as sex trafficking? Does international justice do anything in the United States?
I'll just be honest, no, I don't know any statistics. But I think it is definitely an issue that we look at as something that happens in other countries, and it very much happens in our own country in ways that we don't even notice. Like, how many of you guys buy clothes? How many of you guys eat food? Well, even though you may not see someone like in our town directly involved with human trafficking, like on the perpetrator side, a lot of those products that we buy and that we support with our money are made, or the labor end of that has everything to do with human trafficking. So that's not something we think about a lot, but if you guys want to go to slaveryfootprint.org, you can actually tally up, like, according to the things that you eat and buy, and you can see like how many slaves indirectly kind of work for you. So you can kind of see what you're
I would implore it.
Yeah, it's very shocking, but it's a good tool.
Kelsey, we're going to have to stop there, although we would love to hear more. Good job.